This is the Subaru Solterra, and it's probably the best electric car you've never heard of. It's Subaru's first EV, and shock horror, it's a fully electric SUV crossover to rival the likes of the Skoda Enyaq, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and about 400 other electric SUVs. But what makes it different? Well, stay tuned, because in this video I'm going to tell you what I like about it, what I don't like, and everything in between. I'm Charlie Atkinson, and welcome to EV Powered's review of the Subaru Solterra. The Solterra is basically built off the same platform as Toyota's, and once you know that, then you can start to see why it has so much in common to Toyota's BZ4X. Subaru won't have its own platform until 2025, and so until then it's going to have to share some elements such as these hexagonal front grille here and these wheel arch mouldings, which are basically a copy and paste from the BZ4X. It does look quite sleek with its low roofline, and this sloped rear glass at the rear does give it quite a nice side profile. It is quite minimalist, but there are a few details here which give the car a little bit of personality, such as the thin LED headlights at the front and these design patterns here for the rear lights. You don't actually have a full width light bar on this car, which I've got to say is quite rare now for electric cars. I can't really remember the last car I reviewed that didn't have one of those. It's a good size for a family SUV, and for anyone with kids that's considering the Solterra, I've got good news for you, because it achieved the maximum 5-star rating in the Euro NCAP safety tests, with one of the highest scores for child occupant safety as well. The interior for the Solterra is a clean, minimalist design that's centered around this 12.3-inch touchscreen, which supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly, which is a big plus. In terms of the furnishings, everything feels quite soft and feels pretty premium as well, although it is quite dark on the interior of this model especially. I mean, everything is black, but it is balanced out by this panoramic sunroof you've got. But we have just noticed one big flaw with that, because once you it does go all the way back, but you've got this pillar in the middle for some reason, which is really randomly placed and covers up probably about a third of your panoramic sunroof, which doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, it still bleeds plenty of natural light onto the interior of the car, so it does balance out that pretty dark feeling that you get inside. There are different trim options, obviously, for the interior of this car, but they will bump the costs up a little bit, and we'll come on to the price a little bit later on in the video. With the infotainment screen, you do have actual buttons for things, which is a big thing, and I always like that in a car, especially these modern electric cars. You've got buttons here for your air conditioning, and down here as well you've also got physical buttons for your drive mode, your parking cameras and things like that. You do also have wireless charging for your phone, which is hidden in this little compartment here, and you've got plenty of storage throughout the car as well, so it's nice and practical behind the wheel. You do also have your very own driver's display as well, which is really crisp, really responsive, and gives you plenty of information on navigation, speed and things like that. But there is one small problem with it. Depending on how tall you are, if you're a taller driver like me, then if you adjust your steering wheel and get it into the right place, then the steering wheel does actually cover about half of the screen when you look out. So that is quite annoying. You are going to have to peek over or try and duck under like that. So a really nice interior, but that is one really annoying part of it.
In the back, there's a surprising amount of legroom and just enough headroom too, and your middle armrest also comes with cup holders. There's also plenty of space in the boot as well, with 452 litres, which is big enough to store a couple of large suitcases or a full-sized man if you needed to.
I said we'd come on to price a little bit later on, so before we take this thing out on the road, let me just take 2 minutes to talk about how much this thing costs. The Solterra starts from just under £50,000, whilst a touring model is available for £52,995. Now that offers you faux leather upholstery, 20-inch alloy wheels, a panoramic sunroof, a Harman Kardon sound system, wireless smartphone charging, and an electric passenger seat as well. Now, in terms of performance, the touring spec is almost exactly the same as this standard model, just with slightly less range, which is probably due to the larger wheels, and the boot is also marginally smaller as well. With that being said, the touring version is probably the one to go for, however, and at $52,995, that puts it in the similar price range to the Tesla Model Y long range. Now, before we see whether that's worth it or not, let's take this thing out on the road. When it comes to the Solterra, it's important to remember that this is a different car to the likes what we've mentioned so far in this video, such as the Tesla Model Y long range and the Ford Mustang Mach-E, for example. Fundamentally, this is a family SUV, so you're not going to get the same level of performance that you would in the Tesla or the Mustang Mach-E. With that being said though, it does have a 0-60 time of 6.5 seconds, which is by no means slow, and it does have a good deal of poke, and it does still give you that EV driving experience, but it's not as sharp and as nimble as the other cars that we mentioned. But you don't want it to be, really. In a car like this, you want to prioritise comfort, practicality and safety, and it does those brilliantly. We've touched on the safety rating of the car already in this video, but there are also a number of other safety features that you'll use whilst just driving about on a day-to-day basis, such as lane assist, which isn't over-controlling and doesn't correct your steering too much, which can be quite annoying in a lot of other electric vehicles. But as well as that, you've got blind spot warning lights and loads of other safety features, which I can't think of off the top of my head. But don't get me wrong, it does really justify that 5-star safety rating. It does really look after you and look out for you as well. It might not be as sprightly as some of the other electric cars we've reviewed on this channel before, but I do think you'll be surprised with the ride, because especially for a big car, it is quite a heavy car. It does handle really well, and it is surprisingly nimble, especially going down country lanes and things like that. You can have quite a bit of fun with it, and it doesn't feel as boxy and as rigid as you'd expect. So that is one thing I've been really surprised about with the Solterra. You have 3 different drive modes, ranging from your normal driving mode to power, which is basically sports mode, and then also eco mode, which will help maximise that 228-mile range. You do also have 4 different settings for regen braking, which you can adjust using the flappy paddles behind your steering wheel. In order to access the 4th setting, which is the most severe, you will have to go into a setting on the infotainment screen to access that, which does pretty much give you one pedal driving, although in my experience it doesn't bring you to a complete stop, so that's just something to bear in mind. But with the different driving modes and the regen braking settings, you can fully customise your driving experience and get it exactly how you want it. One thing that is slightly disappointing with the Solterra, however, is the range. Now, officially, it has a range of 228 miles, which in the real world, you're looking at about 200 to 210, which isn't the best, especially in comparison to likes of the Tesla, the Ford Mustang Mach-E and the Skoda Enyaq. In this day and age, you should be looking at about the 300 mark, so 228 really isn't the best, and it does let the car down a little bit. Aside from the range though, I've got to say I've been pleasantly surprised with the Solterra. It's got a decent performance package, it handles much better than I thought it would, and overall I'd say it's a really good option for anyone looking for a fully electric family SUV. As I said at the start of this video, the Subaru Solterra could well be the best electric vehicle you've never heard of. It might not be the most common EV, in fact the one I'm driving today is probably the only one I've ever seen in the flesh, but it is a good solid family SUV, and it's a great start to Subaru's venture into the world of electric vehicles. That's all for this video. If you liked it, then please do drop us a like and be sure to subscribe as well. For more electric car reviews like this, you can head over to our channel, and for daily news coverage, features and much more, you can also head over to evpowered.co.uk. Thanks once again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.